As I was going through your guys' comments, looking at things you guys wanted changed with Super Mario Wonder compared to the past 2D Mario games, there was one comment that I kept coming across over and over and over again, and it had to do with the boss battles, because 2D Mario games, let's face it, they don't have the best boss battles. At least, originally it started off pretty good, and then it kind of went downhill as soon as the Koopalings decided to make a grand return. So today, I want to talk about how Super Mario Wonder needs to completely change and rework how boss battles work within a 2D Mario space. And in order to do so, we have to go back all the way to the beginning and look at what made these boss battles so good and what happened as time progressed. Of course, we really only have one scene to go off of for how the boss battles could work, but of course we will dissect that a little bit more and kind of incorporate that into the rest of the boss battles from the series. But before we get started, guys, we are so close to 250,000 subscribers, 250,000, where you guys will finally get the questions and answers video you guys have been hoping for. We are super close, so stop what you're doing, leave a like and subscribe, as most of you guys are not yet even subscribed, but you tune into these videos all the time. Stop what you're doing, double check, triple check, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, guys. It helps out so much. But thank you so much. Let's get into the video. Start off where it all began, with New Super Mario Brothers. Nope, we're just skipping all the classic ones. We're going straight to the New Super Mario Brothers games, because they seem to really change how these boss battles worked. New Super Mario Brothers on the DS actually had some unique boss battles outside of Bowser Jr. and Bowser, where they were pretty average at best. I mean, seriously, all you had to do was jump on Bowser Jr. 3 times as he barely moved across the stage. It was pretty pathetic. And then Bowser, you just simply jumped over him or ran underneath him to hit the switch, just like the classic games. And for a modern 2D Mario game, this just felt old and it just gets stale, especially when Nintendo decides to do this over and over and over again. But the actual boss battles within this game are actually pretty good. I mean, you have one that's like a mummified Pokey, original boss, an original character in general that we've really never seen, where he keeps coming out of the sand in different ways and you have to hit it as it's also spitting rocks at you. But you had lots of bosses like this in this game, like a giant monster Cheep Cheep that would jump out of the water occasionally. You also had a giant Mega Goomba that would walk back and forth on the stage that you had to use special platforms in order to reach his head. You had Petey Piranha from Super Mario Sunshine in a 2D space fighting against him. And you also had a Monty Mole and a multi-layered tank that shot bullet bills. I mean, come on, this is just awesome. Lackathunder, a special Lakitu that has a thundercloud shooting lightning bolts from the sky. This game had some really good boss battles. Yes, Bowser Jr.'s portions were very lackluster and extremely easy, but thankfully they were only for the tower portions of the worlds, which means they weren't the world final boss. Those were dedicated to special final bosses, as we've already talked about. So yes, I think New Super Mario Bros. DS started it off pretty well, but how did it go from here? Well, we move on to Super Mario Bros. Wii, which brings back the Koopalings from Mario Bros. 3, and ultimately results in the slow downfall of how good these boss battles get. Because in my opinion, the Koopalings were very, very average. It felt like the Bowser Jr. boss fights all over again, but this time they just had one unique move, and that was about it. Also, I guess they all had a magic wand which shot an incredibly slow projectile, but besides that, they were also extremely easy to cheese. As soon as they popped out of their shell, you could actually hit it right away, which meant that boss battle was probably over within literal seconds, and that gave the boss also no time to do any real attacks, because you could just keep hitting it in its head as soon as it stomps out of its shell, which is pretty lame. It would have been cooler if maybe the Koopalings had some type of, new device or some type of robot or structure, or, incorporated something different within their boss battles that wasn't just Mario stomping on a Koopaling's head as they had a wand with them. And because of that, it just got very old and very repetitive very quickly. Now, what also made this very annoying is that even the tower bosses and the final bosses of each world were the same Koopaling. Genuinely, the second castle version of that Koopaling would only just change the stage. I mean, there were some characters that got a new item with them or something to kind of change up the battle, but overall, nothing really changed that much, and it just kind of made me not even want to fight the bosses. It was just like I was more interested in the levels than getting to the end of the level and fighting that level's first boss. And believe it or not, it was kind of switched in this game, where the mini bosses with Bowser Jr. were actually probably some of the best ones, as they utilized different objects and machines and clown cars and stuff, and they had some unique properties to them, where the actual game's bosses were pretty mediocre. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the final bosses too much here, where I want to save that for a separate video, but the bosses in Super Mario Bros. Wii aren't terrible because it's one of the first times we've seen the Koopalings return in this way, so we could live on and move away with it. That is until we actually move on and we see what they decide to do next. Super Mario Bros. U is released, and we have the Koopalings return once again, unfortunately. But this time, they also make this guy return from Mario Bros. 3. Yep, Boom Boom. I have always been a big Boom Boom hater. I think it's the laziest boss in the world, as all it does is run back and forth swinging its arms. Even when it can jump or even fly, it's still too incredibly easy. It has absolutely no type of defensive cooldown, where as soon as it gets out of its shell, you can blast them right away and finish the boss in less than 10 seconds. That is just not a boss battle. But of course, the Koopalings, yeah, they return, but thankfully they are just castle bosses instead of tower bosses, which I don't even know if it's thankfully, because now we have Boom Boom for the tower bosses. But the Koopalings are pretty much the same as Mario Bros. Wii, and some of them actually have the exact same properties and attack animations as Mario Bros. Wii, just with some slight variation. Now, these Koopaling boss battles are definitely better in my opinion. They're not terrible, but I don't know. Something about just running over and just jumping on their heads, you know, when they barely move, it just doesn't sit right with me. I just don't like the Koopalings, and with their return, it just once again makes things super, super easy, and made me not even really want to care about the world's boss battles, which is something that I love within Nintendo video games. The boss battles are always unique in Mario games, and pretty much Nintendo games in general, and I always normally look forward to them. So, obviously, you can see, yeah, this is a problem. Now, they did throw in some unique boss battles once again with Bowser Jr. as he has his clown car, and there was even one underwater where Torpedo Teds would follow Mario around, and you had to have them uniquely hit Bowser Jr., which is stuff that I like. This right here is good. It's different. It's unique. I'm not just jumping on things' heads. There's actually unique ways you have to take out these enemies, and I want more of that. Thankfully, New Super Mario Bros. U wasn't all just Koopalings and Boom Boom, and even Bowser Jr., as it added some weird additions, like a random sumo bro for some reason. Yeah, you can tell they wanted to do some things a little bit different, which is great, but they just didn't quite push it all the way. But surely the next 2D Mario game is going to be a lot better. It looks like they're progressively getting slightly better. They have to go up, right? I couldn't have been more wrong. New Super Mario Bros. 2 is released on the 3DS, and it has possibly some of the worst boss battles I've fought in a long time. For one, Reznor makes a return. I mean, they're returning these bosses that were made in classic Mario games, and I don't know why some of these bosses ever were thought to return. Reznor returns from Super Mario World, and it's literally just a wheel of dinosaurs on blocks, and you just hit the blocks. The floor is even falling so incredibly slow, you're not even pressured to go fast. It's just like, it genuinely was so easy. I was sitting there wondering, you know, if I was playing the right game. I don't even know how to explain it to you. I thought I was a Boom Boom hater, but Reznor, oh, thankfully he got turned into a level gimmick this time, but still. So now we had Reznor for the tower bosses, and we had the Koopalings again for the castle bosses. And the Koopalings got extremely downgraded. It's back to once again not having any special items or really anything unique, but some slight changes with the stages and their magic wands that shoot slow projectiles. Oh boy. I don't know if it's just that Nintendo thinks that 2D Mario games specifically are meant for absolute toddlers or something. I don't know, and it can't be the case because the actual level design for the most part seems to have some difficult levels sometimes, and even the collectibles in each level, some of them are very hard to find. So I just don't understand why these bosses are so incredibly easy to defeat and so boring. I mean, like, and it's not even just the fact that it's easy. I've seen easy Mario bosses. I think Mario Odyssey has lots of easy Mario bosses, but they're still fun to fight. They're unique creatures that have unique ways of taking them down. This just isn't fun. Like, why is the shell spinning across the ground? I can swim. but that has generally been the history of 2D Mario boss battles. But the question is Super Mario Wonder finally going to change things? Can we go back more along the lines of the original New Super Mario Bros. For the DS, where it had original boss battles maybe mixed with Bowser Jr.? Well, I actually think this could be happening. Right now, there is absolutely zero sign of the Koopalings. There are no airships for them, there have been no type of cutscenes shown off, and really nothing with the Koopalings, which I am praying that they're not here. They haven't even shown like an intro cutscene or anything with the Koopalings doing anything. Plus Peach is here, which is probably good sign since the Koopalings are always the one that kidnaps her. So maybe they're gone for good. I also haven't seen anything with Boom Boom at all, but the only boss sequence, the only boss scene that we got was Bowser Jr. once again. Now, there's just so little gameplay here, it's impossible to really tell how this is going to work out. This looks like an average Mario vs. Bowser Jr. room, but the room is a little too basic, which makes me think that there's a lot of wacky things that Bowser Jr. might be able to do this time around. Also, look! Bowser Jr. has invincibility frames, which means you can't just keep hitting him, as he can block all those attacks, which makes me somewhat happy. That shows me that you can't just keep spam hitting Bowser Jr. until the level's over in 3 seconds. So maybe Bowser Jr. will have something different this time around. It looks like in this room specifically, he can make Mario small and himself big, and then vice versa, which is different, I guess, but I'm hoping that this is just maybe a tower boss, and maybe we still have unique castle bosses at the end of each world. I honestly would be very surprised if we didn't, considering the fact that we have tons of new enemies within this game, and tons of wacky things with the Wonder Flower, and new power-ups for Mario. So I would honestly love to see bosses that utilize this Wonder aspect and just have funky, weird enemies that turn into crazy bosses within the Wonder situations. I mean, this game just writes itself to have crazy bosses, so yes, I would be pretty upset if the boss battles are just Bowser Jr. every single time. We've seen the world map a couple of times, but we've never seen any castle icons or even tower icons, so we don't know if the towers even return and how the castles even look this time around, so it's really hard to say. But thankfully, so far, we have no sign of the Koopalings, and really, there is a high opportunity for us to have original boss battles again, I think, with just all these new unique enemies and this new crazy art style and direction that they're taking this game. I think it is leaning towards the positive direction this time around. But let me know in the comments down below, what type of boss battles do you want to see in this game? Are you also like me, tired of the Koopalings and the same Bowser Jr. boss fights? And do you want to see something different entirely? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for tuning in, and like always, I will see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.